You've probably noticed it, right? When it comes to artificial intelligence, people seem to fall into one of two camps. Some are all in. They absolutely love it. Others, they're suspicious, maybe even a little scared. So what's actually going on? Well, it turns out the answer has a lot less to do with the technology itself and a whole lot more to do with us.
So that's the big question we're tackling today. Why is AI so incredibly divisive? We're going to dig into the psychology behind it, because this goes way beyond just circuits and code. It gets right to the heart of how we think about risk, humanity, and trust.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at that love it or hate it dynamic. Then we'll get into something called the black box problem. After that, we'll see what's happening inside our brains when we deal with algorithms. We'll also explore how AI can feel like a threat to our identity. And finally, we'll ask the big one. How can AI actually earn our trust?
All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, love it or hate it. Because as you're about to see, our gut reactions to AI say a ton about our own psychology, maybe more than they say about the machines.
And let's be real, AI isn't some distant sci-fi idea anymore. It's here, it's now, it's already woven into the fabric of our daily lives. You know, it's helping craft your emails, it's helping doctors spot diseases earlier, it's recommending what you should binge watch next. And the promise is huge, right? More speed, more accuracy, making everything better.
But for all that amazing potential, AI has one major psychological hurdle. And that brings us to Section 2, the black box problem. This whole thing boils down to a really simple human truth. We just don't trust what we can't understand.
I mean, think about it. We have total faith in the tools we grew up with because they're predictable. You turn a key, your car starts. You press a button, the elevator comes. It's a clear, simple cause and effect, and our brains love that.
But AI is different. A lot of these systems are what we call black boxes. You put some information in, you get a decision out, but what happens in the middle, the logic, the why, it's often completely hidden from us. And that not knowing part can feel really unsettling. This feeling leads to this really fascinating thing researchers call algorithm aversion. Get this, it's our tendency to pick a flawed human expert over a provably better algorithm, especially after we see that algorithm make just one little mistake. The moment it fails, we lose faith because we have no idea why it failed. So, building on that, let's get into Section 3, our brain-on algorithms. This is where things get really interesting, because it's all about how we can't help but project our own humanity onto these very non-human systems. The key idea here has a fancy name, anthropomorphism, but all it really means is our deep, almost instinctual habit of giving human-like feelings and intentions to things that aren't human. Research shows that we react to computers socially, even when we consciously know they don't have feelings. It's just how we're wired.
And this wiring leads to some pretty weird reactions, right? We get creeped out if a chatbot is a little too polite. We feel like our privacy has been invaded when an ad is just a little too accurate. We start to feel like we're being manipulated, even though there's no person back there pulling the strings.
This all leads to a huge difference in how we judge mistakes. When a person screws up, we're usually pretty forgiving. We get it. People are flawed. But when an AI messes up, a machine that's supposed to be perfect and logical, we feel betrayed. It violates our deepest expectation of what a machine is supposed to be. And that really brings us to this powerful idea. The irony here is just massive. Humans make bad calls constantly. But the critical difference is we can turn to another person and ask them, why? Why did you do that? That ability to question, to get an explanation, that's the absolute foundation of trust. Now, this takes us to an even deeper, more personal level in Section 4, a threat to identity. This is when our anxiety about AI stops being about the tech and starts being about us. It starts to feel like way more than just a tool.
For professionals, writers, designers, lawyers, artists, you name it, AI can trigger what social psychologists call an identity threat. This is a very real fear that your expertise, your skills, the things that make you unique and valuable, are suddenly being devalued or even replaced by a machine.
And when you look at it from that perspective, this distrust of AI isn't some irrational bug in our thinking. It's a feature. It's a psychological defense mechanism, a way of protecting our sense of self, our purpose, in a world that feels like it's changing under our feet. And this is so important to remember. Not all of this suspicion is irrational. Far from it. When algorithms have been shown to be biased in really critical areas, like who gets a loan or who gets a job interview, distrust isn't paranoia. It's a learned, protective, and frankly, completely reasonable response based on real-world harm.
So, with all these very human barriers, where do we go from here? Well, that brings us to our final section, how AI can earn trust. The solution, it seems, is about moving AI away from being a mysterious black box and toward being something more like an open conversation.
One of the sources we reviewed had this quote that just captures the feeling perfectly. I trust AI the way a sailor trusts the sea. It can carry you far or it can drown you. And that just nails it, doesn't it? It highlights the incredible power and the potential danger, and it shows why building real trust is absolutely non-negotiable.
So how does AI do that? How does it build our trust? Well, it has to be earned, not just demanded. And that seems to come down to three key things. First, it has to be transparent. We need to see the logic. Second, it must be interrogable. We have to be able to ask why. And third, it has to be accountable. There needs to be clear responsibility when things go wrong.
Ultimately, the goal here can't just be to make our lives a little more convenient. The real goal has to be about giving us, the users, a sense of agency, a feeling of understanding, of control, and of respect. Because psychologically, that is the absolute bedrock of any lasting trust.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Instead of just teaching AI to do more things more efficiently, maybe the most important task we have ahead of us is teaching AI how to explain itself. What do you think?